Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday, it's September 21st. This will be our chart lesson for today. Really, in the big scheme of things, we closed up a few points for the day, but this is really a large trading range for the most part. We had a trend working up. Looked like it might have been a spike in channel, but either way, we had a break of this real steep trend and one leg up, pull back, and then another leg up to a new high, and then we sold off. If you saw the spike in channel, we still had the break, a move to a new high, and then we sold off. This is a two-tiered channel, and this was after a correction and moved back down to fill the overnight gap. There was a gap. This is where we closed on Friday, and so when we opened at 8:30, prices were way up here, so prices came back and filled that gap, actually went a little bit further, and then we just had another kind of repeat pattern to this right here almost. So in the big scheme, it's probably, I would call this a range type day, but it's such a large range that it's 20 points or more, so you can trade these trends going both ways and pretty much consider this was a really steep sell-off right here. um, you got to be careful in a sell-off like this, trying to get trying to get long, and you got to wait till this plays out. Somebody actually sent me um, I, I got a couple of emails where people had some losers. One guy's trying to get long, or actually trying to get short up here. I believe it was right in here trying to get short. And you really don't want to start trying to go short until you got a confirmed trend working in the other direction. I believe it was up here where he was trying to get short. It might have been, actually I believe it was right in here where they were trying to get short. And prices are basically working on a retest of the high at this point. It takes a while to get it, but we finally get it and then it sells off. So I believe it was right in here where they were trying to get short. And the smart move is there's a trend line up here trying to get long. Um, but anyway, the big thing here is this sell-off was prices trying to fill this gap. And once we filled it, it went a little further. Once we filled it, then we traded back up again. I mean, it's very rare that you'll have a big gap on a daily chart that doesn't get filled pretty quickly. There's an old rule or something that says 3 minutes, and if not within 3 minutes, it'll be 3 hours. If not within 3 hours, it'll be 3 days. If not within 3 days, it'll be 3 weeks, and then 3 months, and so on. But generally, within a few days, usually, especially on the daily, on the intraday chart, most of those gaps they try to fill on the same day. Doesn't always happen if the trend's strong, but that's what they're going to attempt to do is pull prices back and fill those gaps. And so always be aware of those gaps. And you don't see a gap on this chart because it's a 24-hour chart. But if you went to the daily chart, or if you went to the daily chart, you would see this. Or if you went to an intraday chart that didn't show the overnight data, you would see the gap. So a lot of times that confuses people that they go, where's the gap? There's no gap on this chart. Well, you got to understand what a daily chart would look like. Prices closed here and then opened at 8:30 somewhere up here, so there's a gap in there. So make sure you understand that. But there's also a bigger two-tiered channel working here. This line really came in handy. You could have had it off these highs, but what was really interesting was to draw it off these lows and then drag it up, and it still fit here. And then notice once we got the break, prices tried to go lower again here. But this larger, or I wouldn't say this is necessarily a larger pattern, but this up pattern really kept prices inside this channel, and it took precedence over the red one. So, but I think both of them are valid. And but really, by the time you would have looked for it to go where it went higher here, it's very late in the afternoon. That's another thing, that the market closes at 3 o'clock now instead of the old 3:15. So make sure you're aware of that. The market will close at 3 o'clock my time, and then won't open back up until I I think it's 3:30. I can't remember the new open because I don't care about the open time because I'm not trading then. But I like to know when the market's going to close. And instead of 3:15, it's 3 o'clock now. That's a change the CME made for the ES recently. So make sure you're aware of that change if you are not yet. So anyway, let's back out and talk about the trades, and we'll wrap this day up. But early on, we had a trend. When I came in, we had a nice trend working higher. We finally got a break here. Notice that we've got a bar that you might have thought about taking a second entry here if it triggered, but it didn't. Instead, it turns down. It's right off that trend line, and this is almost like a failed second entry long, but it never ticked higher. But if you wanted to go short, there's the reason I am open to this as an aggressive trade is it's right off that trend line. It's the third attempt to test it. So it works very similar to a failed second entry long. It's basically the same type pattern. If you went to a smaller chart, you'd probably see a failed second entry long. But notice all the space between here and the EMA, and prices just do not stay away from that EMA very long. So you got plenty of room to scalp out. So I like that one. You still got to figure that we may work for a retest. It looks like there's a possible close outside, but this is so close and it's early in the overnight. So you can almost ignore that one unless you get a bigger trend that just keeps working lower. But notice how we end up just kind of flattening out in a flatter trend here and working higher. And we do get a break here for sure and a new high, and then we sell off. So you could have looked at that either way. But I like that for a short, being aggressive. And then I like this for a long, being aggressive. We had a little bit of a close outside, not much, a move to a new low. This is probably a little lower here, like so. And you get a close out, a move to a new low, and then it reverses it. But the main thing is notice how flat that is. Notice all those bars lined up. You don't want to be entering in that. It's like a trading range. So you wait on the break, and it breaks to the low side and fails. So I like that for a possibility to go long there, looking for a retest. And the fact that we might have had a break, probably had a break there and a new low. So again, it's a little bit aggressive, but if you wanted to, sometimes you catch these and you can ride these all the way up. The safer play is to wait on it to pull back here, and it makes a higher low. And actually, the entry is not on this one either. I think the better entry is to wait because this is not a real good signal bar. The entry is when it breaks below this bar and gives you that failed second entry short and that trap, and then it turns and goes up. Just go long right there. So that's really the entry. Let me move that so you can see that. The entry is when it ticked lower here and then turned up. And you don't want to be going short there because you got that possible trend line, and that just confirms it. So it's another reason to consider going long there. So that's the first for sure long that I liked. Notice you get a break, a new high, and then you're working down. You don't really get a break and a close here, but that's because you got this main trend line working up. Let me move this here and show you this. Notice that you're pulling back. You get a first entry, and then you go lower, and you get that little trap, and you get a second entry. And I believe somebody asked me about going short right here. Well, you can't go short into that trend line. It's held multiple times across there. And plus, look how it's kind of stacked up there again. It's almost a little repeat pattern of this right here. And then it breaks lower and it reverses. And that's what you would expect to happen here with this trend line. That's the first close outside the trend line, and then the second one, and then it reverses. There's no short here. There's a second entry short even right here. But you don't want to go short right there. Notice that new low, pull back first entry, pull back second entry, right into that trend line. No, you can't go short there. So the play is long right here. And then you get another opportunity to enter again here. And then you really could even treat this one almost like a failed second entry long, because this is almost like one move and then a move down and then one move. And so it's like two legs up, and this is a strong resistance area. You get what looks like a trap here, but you don't want to be going short here yet. You don't quite have a new high in place, which has got to be up here. and you got more bars stacked up. You do get a very nice bearish bar, but that's why I always say wait on the next second entry off that. And you might even could say, hey, this looks like a second entry because it ticked higher, but I just don't think you can go short right there. And if you did, you got to reverse or you got to exit real quick when it bounces right off the EMA and turns up. I did circle this one green. It's not a perfect setup um, because you're going long right into this resistance. There is probably just about enough room to get out, but again, it's still, it's still real questionable going long that close to the high of the day and the high of the overnight. Uh, but you're looking for that high anyway. So if you want to be aggressive, there's a reason to enter right there. And this turns out to be a really nice move. Um, so you can't ignore that trade, but it is an aggressive trade. But then this is where some people started trying to get short. This is where one guy tried to get short. He sent me here. Notice there's a new high, pullback, first entry, pullback, second entry. So he says, this looks like a failed second entry long. So I'm going to go short. Well, if you're going short that early, you're trying to pick tops, and you know what happens when you try to pick tops, especially with a big move like this going up. So you got to be patient and wait and make sure you got a confirmed trend going in the other way. And there's your trend line, your first two swings, and you don't get confirmation to over here. So even though there's some other traps in here, I don't recommend going short. And you definitely don't want to go short or long out of that. So you wait on it to break out. It confirms the trend line, gives you a relatively bearish bar, and then you can go short. And you might have even waited on a break below this bar, and then dropped a limit order back in here, and you could have gotten filled all the way back up to here on that little breakout pullback short. And this turns out, if you did enter this one, you can ride this all the way down. Notice that it came back to the trend line here, but you got congestion again. So if you want to enter, you got to wait on this one right here. But I didn't like the signal bar, so I probably should circle that one green, because that did, you really got a confirmation of the trend line here, but you can't enter that one. So this is more of a breakout pullback. So that one should be, probably should have that one circled green as well. Because if you want to be real aggressive, you got that one. And then here we got another turn down right off the trend line and went higher and turned and went out the low side. The reason this one is green is because there is some previous support over here. We've kind of, proven that this trend is over, and we got a strong one working down. So, but it's an aggressive trade going short right there. So I did mark that one green. I marked both of those are green. It turned out to be a great trade. But then it didn't notice you get a new low, pullback, first entry, pullback, second entry. And again, this is not a very good signal bar. This was the better signal bar. So you got to be real careful about using stop right here. We got a little trend channel working higher right here. Probably a little bit steeper there. We don't have a break of it yet. So it's a little bit questionable, but what I liked here was it looked like it was going to be a failed second entry short, and it goes out the high side and fails and turns down. So it's really like a double trap, and I guarantee you they trapped a lot of people along there, and you can tell by how it rockets down real quick. But most important, look how strong this sell-off is. When you get a sell-off like that, you almost always retest the low. So you can almost be assured you're going to get a retest here, and you might even get a new low. And we do end up getting another low. We got a new low there, and then we tried to make another leg, but the market was just really weak right here. So I like this one only because of the trap. Normally, if you just had this signal bar and you didn't get that little break higher, and then it turned down above that. See, there's really a double top. I need to put the line there maybe to make it a little bit easier to see. You can see that double top there, and you get that little break higher, and then it turns down. So I gave it a little. This one is, like I said, though, real close to being green, but I like that one because this is such a strong trend down, and that's the first move back to the EMA and the first break of this trend line. So there's some reason. And you really could have even waited on this one. What I would have done here is when it broke lower, drop my limit order back here, and you see it would have come back and filled you. And this is probably the safer place to enter because it broke higher and then turned and went right out. Just have a stop there and jump on. And you can see you get another big move down. And that's when I would have drawn this trend line across here, which you could have already had it there simply because of all the touches. But if you didn't, I would have definitely kind of been expecting to maybe get a bounce there because of something there. But that's a little bit more advanced, and most people aren't going to see that. But once you saw those two swings and you start rallying, draw it there and pull it up, and then that might alert you to this one if you didn't already see it. But if you had this one and drug it down, you might have been waiting on this one to show up right here as well. But definitely there's no excuse for not being aware of it on the way back here, because by that time everything's fitting in here. Even the midline fits in there real nicely. So that would have alerted you to this. But anyway, you got your break of this shorter term run, a move to a new low. Notice this new low, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. And notice what happens. It does trigger a second entry right here, and then it goes higher. And it looks like it's going to turn back down and be a trap, but if you just hang on, you really could have gone long right above that bar. But I think you're better off to wait. And when it makes that big bearish bar, wait on, and then makes this bar, I think you're better off to enter in there. But you could have entered either place there. It was a trap basically when this bar in the middle went higher than this bar here. And that's a fairly bullish bar right there. And this is why I'm always preaching, your safety stop has to go below that bar. And if it had, you'd have been safe there and still got a good trade out of that if you didn't let it shake you out. And it actually pulls back and bounces off here, but it's a first entry. We've had a pretty good move up. We've really had two legs up. You can see leg one and then leg two. So it's basically a little more than a measured move. And so I'm not that crazy about this one. It does shoot across the midline of this red channel, and that's what generally happens when you pull through. It pulls back and tests that midline and then goes higher. So it's a bounce off the midline here, the trend line coming up. It's close enough. It's a little double bottom. So there's some reasons to consider that, but it's so close to this high and this high and this high that there's a chance you might find resistance, which you do, but it still would have worked. So I didn't circle that one. You could give that one a green one if you want to be really aggressive, but I personally say wait, don't take that trade. Wait and see what happens. And of course you get your break here, you get a first entry pullback, you get a second entry, and it is right off this trend line, but that is such a neutral bar. I think you're better off to wait and see if you get a second entry off the other side, and that comes right here and you get a nice bullish bar. So just go long right there. And then you get a failed second entry short, so you're probably going to trap some shorts here. So I like going long there, and that's playing that midline on the way up now. And you probably want to be considering, here's your first leg up, and then that two-legged correction. So you're looking for a measured move, and look at there. Lo and behold, we get a perfect measured move. And so you were looking for it, and where is that? Right at the top, where this trend line down here fits perfectly. So that's kind of puts the pieces together, and that's where I would have been looking to exit, and that would have got you out right near the top, and then it turns down again. And that gets you into the two. This one's right into the 2 o'clock hour as well, but it's before 2 o'clock. So if you want to take that one, you can take it. So all in all, it was a pretty good day. There were some pretty good moves. This was a little surprising. It's not surprising really that we sold off here. What's surprising is that it just was so steep all of a sudden. But that's what happens. You get this prices going higher and higher, and everybody's it's kind of jumping on here. But you can see the momentum is failing, and all these people that got long and all the people that are loading up here on the wrong side, when they finally realize their food, they got to all run for the doors. And that's what causes this. So there were a lot of people lined up long here, and probably a lot of people that got long all in here. And this is all them exiting. And that's how you know there's a good trap, or that there's people running for the door, because suddenly the bottom falls out of it. And if you can catch this trade, that's all you need for the day. And even if you'd have caught this one, you got 4 or 5 points there. And then this one, you would have got runners on a couple of these that might have got 4 or 5 points. So you only got to get a couple of good trades a day. So stay away from the iffy ones. Wait on the sure things. And like right here, it would have been tempting to want to go short right here when it turned down. But if you wait and then it turns up and you get the trap, look at that bearish bar and you get a chance to get in. For a quick one, and then it comes back again and gives you another chance to get in. And after coming off the high side, where are you likely going to the other side? And that's right where it goes. So if you want to use that to try to, keep your runners going, and where to follow your runners to, that's how you do it. But really, it was a pretty good day considering this probably caught a lot of people off guard. And then it reverses and starts going higher just as quickly. But what they were trying to do basically was fill this gap. They didn't fill it here earlier in the day. They couldn't. It was still too strong. And so they were trying to fill that gap. And once it started down, they filled it relatively quickly. We still didn't fill it until we went on down here. And that's why we probably pushed lower. But they probably caught a bunch of people trying to get long in here. And they trap them, and then they got to exit again. So don't try to pick tops and bottoms. That's what I told the other trader earlier today. That's the worst thing you can do, is try to pick tops and bottoms. Wait till you get a confirmed trend in the other direction, which doesn't come till right here coming down, and it doesn't come till right here going up. Until then, stay out. You may want to stop trading in the other direction. In other words, you may not want to take any more shorts in here, but don't take a long until you get a confirmed trend in the other direction. So I hope that's clear. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for today. Hope you had a good trading day. Hope you had a great weekend. I'm a big college football fan, so it was a great weekend for me. I'm looking forward to this coming weekend. And won't be long. Once the time changes, we'll probably go back to doing Friday afternoon chart lessons. But for now, we will not be doing them. And there may be some, I may still be more sporadic with them once the time changes, but I will probably do them on most Fridays, unless there's a big ball game here in town that weekend, because it gets crazy here in the afternoons on ball game weekend. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.